My M27 mother hates my white girlfriend, but loves my brother's white boyfriend. My parents are first-generation Canadians immigrated from Vietnam, and my brother and I were born in a mostly white area of Canada. My mother has always been insistent that my brother and I find a good Vietnamese girl, even though there's almost no Asian girls, let alone Vietnamese, specifically in the area. So I've always dated white girls and just never brought them home to my mom. I've been with my current girlfriend for over 2 years now, and she's the first that ever met my mom. My girlfriend is amazing and exactly the type my parents would want for me. She's incredibly nice, very intelligent, highly educated, has a successful career, and she's insanely beautiful. Still, my mother absolutely hates her for no other reason than that she's white. She keeps telling me she's a good girl for a white man. She keeps implying that she's using me for my looks, my career or my money, even though she far outclasses me in all categories. And to my girlfriend's face, she's incredibly cold and passive-aggressive even when my girlfriend bends over backwards being nice and polite. It's to a point where we try to see her as least often as possible. Meanwhile, my younger brother has come out as gay a few years ago. My mother was initially very uncomfortable at the news, but she has turned around to it completely after meeting his new white boyfriend. What's more puzzling is that my brother's boyfriend is a straight-up loser. He's an older man with a dead-end job, no education, no money, and he's irritatingly dumb and self-absorbed. My brother could do a lot better. Still, my mom swoons at him and treats him like her own child. This whole situation is making me very bitter and angry. I'm growing resentful at my mother and at my brother, even though it's not his fault, and he can't control it. My dad and I have tried talking to my mom about it, and she won't hear it. I don't want to cut her out of my life because it's my mom and I love her, but I also love my girlfriend and want her to feel loved by both my parents. My dad does like her. My girlfriend pretends that she's fine and that she understands, but I'm sure it's difficult for her and I have no idea what to do about it. Story 2. My wife was killed in a tragic accident, then I found out she was cheating. 2 months ago my wife of 10 years, I'm 35, she was 34, tragically passed away in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver in broad daylight. I cried non-stop for 3 days. We were planning on having kids and I had started a good paying job a year earlier and we just purchased our first home just 2 months before her death. I just couldn't and still can't believe she's really gone from my life. It's like just yesterday everything was heading in the right direction and would soon raise a family. She seemed happy in our marriage and stated how proud of me she was. The following week after the accident I received her phone, which was locked. After a week I found out how to unlock it by an obvious code I didn't think of earlier. I simply just wanted it to keep photos in her memory, photos of us and so forth. But I saw some odd things in her photos. Included photos of her in someone else's house, a house which I had never seen before, taking provocative images. I continued scrolling down and seen the most heart-wrenching thing I ever seen. Which was her with another man. It was nothing Samuel, but they were in a place that was obviously his. And just how close they were, I just knew that this was an affair. The guy who wife had an affair with, showed up at her funeral. I felt like I got stabbed in the gut when I realized I seen him there. I began reading her texts and first I found out that she was on her way back from his place. 3 hours before the accident she texted him saying I'm on my way. I knew that meant he was the last one to see my wife. Not only see her but having an intimate moment with her, also she would still be here right now if she wasn't seeing him. I feel like I'm going through a death of a loved one and a breakup at the same time. She did this behind my back and will never know that I found out. In a way I feel she got to escape the heartbreak she put me through, although I fully understand death is much worse, and even knowing everything I know, I would never ever wish this or any pain upon her. I found out not only through her texts but her Facebook messages. Something that absolutely enrages me is that she told her closest friend that this guy from work wanted to take her out to dinner. Her friend encouraged her to go out with him. It enrages me cause I knew her as well, and in person she was always very nice. But my wife was asking her to get confirmation. Had she said no, you are married, do not go out with him, I honestly feel like she wouldn't have done it. But her best friend was like, oh, is he hot? Oh, do it. Go have fun. It's just ducking in raging. This happened 6 months ago when she asked her friend about it. A few days later she talked to her friend about how after dinner she went to his place and had time multiple times. When I read that, I honestly got physically sick. I honestly started going through a breakdown, vomiting in the toilet, then crying on the bathroom floor. I just can't imagine that this stuff actually happened, but it did. How could she do this? But as the days passed and the initial shock began to slow down, I started piecing things together. The funeral, I noticed something a little unusual, which was this best friend of hers, talking to one of her co-workers. This was a friend from high school and there was no reason she should have known any of her co-workers. But she was in fact talking to her co-worker who she had the affair with. Then she came and talked to me, gave me a hug. The guy who my wife was having an affair with, came and shook my hand. Something about that just makes me feel sick. Like I was being humiliated in a moment of grief. There was him and her best friend who knew about her affair. I couldn't help but wonder, did her co-workers also know? It's been a month and I feel no closer to breaking away from the heartbreak. I miss her, I want her to be alive. If she was, I would probably even want to fix our marriage. But she's not here anymore. I still couldn't bring myself to read all of her text messages with him. There is hundreds and some are nearly implicit. My blood boils and my heart aches when I open their texts, and I get hit with anxiety and an adrenaline rush, palms get sweaty and hands shake. But I feel it's important I knew everything. It just breaks my heart this guy did things with my wife she wouldn't do for me. The thing that blows my mind the most is that there were no warning signs at all. Not ducking one. Our marriage was good, she never did anything suspicious, our time life went on as normal. Just zero warning signs about it other than the fact she started wearing a little more makeup than usual. Then I blame myself for not catching on. Maybe this all could have been prevented, maybe I should have done this or that. I am broken and don't see myself ever being happy again. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I honestly didn't expect so much response. Everyone who wished me well, thank you, and know that your kind words give me strength. I have got a response back from her friend, stating that she is deeply sorry for encouraging the behavior and not taking my feelings into account. She never wanted me hurt and yada yada. Honestly, I don't feel any relief from her apologies. About the phone, I cannot bring myself to destroy all the truth. I feel like I must read through the entirety of my wife's texts with this man, or I will forever go crazy wondering what did and didn't occur, how often, and maybe get some answers on if they were lovers. Was it just lust time, or what did she plan on doing? Obviously in this state of trauma I cannot emotionally handle reading their conversations, but I decided to keep the phone, to read it all and then toss it and move on. Also, for people telling me to PSS on her grave, or saying this is karma, please drop it and don't comment. I loved her for over a decade and it's not going away like that. I still love this woman even with the disgusting things she has done. She was still my wife, a daughter and an aunt. She didn't deserve to get hit by some drunk driver and suffer with bleeding her brain that ultimately caused her death. Please go away, I do not need this, and I am not a sick-minded enough man to have those thoughts. For everyone else, thank you so much. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, my God, I'm so incredibly sorry for you that I have no words. I can't even begin to imagine what you're going through. That's a lot of conflicting emotion. I know this is the standard Reddit response, but I very highly recommend seeking out therapy. You need support in this. I'm so sorry for your loss. Answer, thanks, I have already done so and I am going to be speaking with a psychologist. Redditor 2, there have been discussions on which would be worse, partner dies versus partner cheats. This must be hell on earth. I am so sorry. Redditor follow-up, at least in the our breakups subforum, a cheating and leaving partner warm changing overlapping monkey branching is compared to them dying. I have no idea what the op is going through, but that is what happened to me. Since we had no ties apart from living together even after nearly 6 years, no contact, has her memory fading. Redditor 3, is her affair partner married? When are you going to tell the friend that you found out, and that you know she encouraged her to do it? Answer, no, he isn't married, appears that he was and is still single. I already told her. She first told me she was very sorry to hear that she did that, but that I shouldn't tarnish her reputation by telling people. I said I am only telling you because I know you encouraged her, and she hasn't replied. But it's only been a day, I'm not sure anyone would know how to respond. Redditor 4, I lost a boyfriend to suicide and found out at his funeral that he had cheated. I went through waves of sadness and anger, sometimes at the same time and sometimes independently. It cut me in a way that was indescribable. You aren't alone. Redditor follow-up, I had a similar experience. When someone dies, suddenly also suicide in this case, and then evidence starts coming out. Very upsetting and tragic, especially if you trusted the person fully and have no way to confront them about it. Heartbreaking. Hugs to you and the op. Redditor 5, I don't understand how her best friend and this guy had the guts to come to you during the funeral. Some people have no morals. Even if they thought you did not know, what they did is just wrong. Redditor follow-up, I feel like I hit a mental wall thinking about that. How do these people exist and think it's okay to do that? Redditor 6, right now the other man is probably breathing a sigh of relief because she is gone, and he believes all the evidence and risk of exposure is to turn his world upside down and burn it to the ground. He was your wife's co-worker, so expose this behavior to his employer HR department. Expose the affair to all family and friends if you are willing to endure what follows. You have the proof, take screenshots and use it to silence those who would attack you. She shouldn't be remembered as a loyal wife. She died on the way from seeing her affair partner after a sexual encounter. Who knows how far your wife would have gone with this other man had she lived. She could have had this other man's child and tried to pass it off as yours. You lost your wife long before she died. She gave you and the marriage up as soon as she decided to let this co-worker into her personal life and her bed. You can still have a life and start a family with someone else. Make a Facebook post in her memory exposing the lie and post all the proof from her phone screenshots. Set yourself free. Redditor follow-up, actually, she was on her way back from doing sexual things she wouldn't do with her husband. Redditor 7, go PSS on her grave. You'll feel better.